100 years ago, Britain built the machines, the ships, the factories that powered half the modern world. This was a country that gave millions of ordinary people a patch to a secure life, not through luck, but through building. Today, most people can name at least one thing they think needs fixing. Every few years, someone promises to fix it. Every few years, the same frustration comes back. So, who broke Britain? The honest answer is not a single person did. No single government broke Britain overnight. Britain wasn't broken by one government or one party or one bad decision. It was worn down slowly by a system that rewards promising change more than it rewards finishing it. The answer isn't a person, it is a pattern.
Welcome to Fix Britain. No politics, no lies, no propaganda, just logic and common sense for you.
Let me show you what I mean with something small. Two taps, one sink, scalding on one side, freezing on other, no middle ground. When I first moved to Britain from Poland, this was one of first things that stopped me, not the weather, not driving on the left, the taps. There was once a good reason for them. Old plumbing, where mixing hot and cold risked contaminating the clean supply. For its time, it made sense. But the world changed, the pipes changed. In modern buildings, the original problem no longer exists. The taps didn't. That's not really a story about plumbing. It is a habit keeping a system running years after the reason for it gone. And once I noticed it in bathroom, I started noticing in everywhere else. Let me be honest with you for a moment. After making episode after episode of this channel, chasing one broken things after another, housing this month, the NHS the next, roads after that, I'd find the mechanism, film it, post it, and move to the next one. And somewhere along the way, doing exactly that, it hits me. I was finding the same problem wearing 20 different coats. And if that's true, if housing and the NHS and the roads and the taps are all downstream of the same habit, then no single fix, however good, was ever going to be enough on its own. I've come to believe what this country is actually missing isn't a better housing policy or a faster NHS reform. It is something underneath all of them, a plan that survives changing governments instead of restarting with everyone. Legal reform that isn't revised every 5 years. A state isn't finally been brought into the digital age. An honest long horizon for rebuilding what Britain makes and produces, not just what it imports and sells to itself. That's not a small thing to say on camera, but once you've seen the pattern, it is hard to unsee it. Watch what happens once you know what to look for. Housing for decades. Every government has promised more homes. Targets get set with real conviction. When planning fights start, cost climbing, local opposition grows loud, and the target quietly slides into the next parliament. With the NHS, the shape is different, but the ending is the same. Every government promises shorter waits, and every one of them runs into the same wall. You can't train a doctor in 18 months or finish a hospital wing before the next election. The clock the problem needs is longer than the clock politics runs on. Energy tells a quieter version of the same story. Somewhere right now a wind farm or solar site sits finished or nearly finished, cable laid, turbines turning, waiting years for a grid connection. Not because the electricity isn't wanted, because the wires built decades ago were never sized for what the country is trying to plug into them today. That queue wasn't planned for. It is simply grew year after year while everyone was busy announcing the next project. Rather than rebuilding what carries the last one. And it isn't only me saying this. The National Audit Office, not a party, has repeatedly reported major public programs running over budget and behind schedule, and the governments of every colour. Economists have been pointing to the UK's productivity gap with its neighbours for well over a decade. Many economists broadly agree that improving skills, infrastructure, and long-term investment is part of the solution. That kind of fix takes years to show results. Long enough that the government, brave enough to start it, is rarely still in office to take credit for finishing it. And so, election after election, the diagnosis gets repeated and the treatment gets postponed. I lived here for over 20 years now, long enough to genuinely love what this country does well, the fairness, the quiet decency, the sense that things are eventually meant to work out. What's short in supply is patience. By now, those taps probably don't seem like plumbing anymore. So, what broke Britain? Not one person, not one government. What wore it down was a cycle: promise, power, delay, disappointment, then a new promise, and a system that measures success by what gets announced, not what gets finished. But here is the part worth holding on to. Those bathroom taps don't stay forever. Someone eventually decides it's time to replace them. Systems can change too. They always have. Here is the uncomfortable question keep coming back to. Everyone says they want politicians who think long term, but would you actually vote for someone who asked for 5 hard years of unglamorous fixing, legal reform, digital modernization, and rebuilding British industry, knowing they might be out of office before you ever saw the result? Tell me below which of those, housing, the NHS, energy, or something else, do you think has been being fixed the longest without ever actually getting fixed? Thank you for your attention. The next episode on Saturday.